everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. You loved our next guest in Law & Order SVU, Scandal, Braindead, and of course, FX's Mayans M.C., where Danny Pino plays Miguel Galindo, the cold-hearted boss of the Galindo cartel. Let's take a look at a clip.
Gifts, promises, hyperbolic flattery, at the end of the day, they're meaningless. All of them. A woman worthy of your affection would know that.
You are very wise, Senor. I know we got off to a rocky start, but our arrangement, I really feel like we're in sync now. Would you agree?
I hope that's true. Oh, you set the pace, Mr. Potter. I'm just following your lead. Trying not to make the same mistakes my father made. Good luck with the girl.
Put your hands together for Danny Pino. Let's hear it.
Thank you.
First things first, just jumping off that clip, I want to say, to me, as someone who watches lots of TV, watches lots of movies, there seems to be nothing cooler or easier or more fun to do for an actor than to have sunglasses that you can throw on at the end of a scene or at the beginning of a line. Does it feel that way? Does it just make the whole thing easier that you can go and then say the line?
You use every prop you can when you're an actor,
But
right?
sunglasses make you feel cool.
Sunglasses are cool, I think, inherently, depending on the sunglasses. I have a couple of, I have a pair of flamingo sunglasses that aren't quite as cool. You know, it wouldn't have had the same effect in that scene. I think you just try and exhibit human behavior, as you see it.
What kind of human behavior do you see in Miguel Galindo, or do you feel that you try to exhibit consistently? I mean, he's a character that shapeshifts and changes and has different, much more emotions and layers than I think people would expect for a cartel boss.
I think I just try and keep Miguel as human as possible. I think if you repeat an action, then it looks rehearsed, right? I mean, we're all inconsistent and we're all capable of a range of expression. So the more relaxed you are, I think, on set and with your character and with the people you work with, the more likelihood you'll have of looking human and not looking robotic with.
Is that a fear that you
glasses.
have sometimes when you?
I think that's just it's a pitfall. Mm-hmm. Right, it's one of those things that you have to avoid, right? I try not to be conscious of it.
Is one of the ways that you avoid being robotic? I mean, it seems obvious, but I was talking to someone the other day who said that the only way that they can be comfortable on camera is if when they get to set, they know all of their lines. There's no way in hell that they're going to drop a line. So at that point, they can play, they can have a good time, and they're never going to be thinking about what the next line is.
I don't think there's one way to do it. Is in all honesty, I know actors who show up and don't know one line, and they kill it, and they're super comfortable that way because they haven't over rehearsed it. So, they're able to really play jazz with it. I'm more.
Does that make you jealous as an actor when you see someone like that? You're like, come on.
Every other actor hates those people.
Yeah.
Because we're jealous.
Yeah.
I'm not that actor. I love to prepare. I love to be on. I feel like the more I prepare, the more I can play. Right. The more confident I am. And on TV, you just don't have an opportunity to rehearse. Mm-hmm. You show up, you kind of set up the scene, you feel your way through the scene, and before you know it, there's already marks on the floor so that the camera, they know where to set the lights and where to put the cameras, and you just have to move at such a quick pace that if, in addition to that, you're learning the lines at that point, it makes it so that it's not as a creative experience as it should be.
I'm assuming that, and I think you did because we spoke about the first season, that when you were going to be playing Miguel and you got cast in the part, you started doing some research and started looking into who this person would be because he was an Ivy League educated cartel boss, had basically had an MBA and was running it like you would run a Fortune 500 company. But going into the second season, obviously things change and a character develops. When you're doing that, do you do more research as the character is going to change, or do you feel like, you've got this guy and whatever they throw at you, you're going to be able to work into what you've understood about this character so far?
That's a good question. I always find that there's kind of two trains running. I'm always looking for, the next article about, a person like Miguel, right? So I want to study more as to what that psychology is. But the other track is, what kind of things would Miguel be interested in, right? So would he be interested in this article about how, multinational corporations are changing, their vision on business, right? That's something that I think Miguel would be interested in because he would try to apply that to his
That is
illicit
amazing
business.
that Miguel would apply like what we're talking about now in terms of capitalism with a conscience to the drug cartel.
Tariffs, all of that. I think Miguel would be interested in. I'm not necessarily all that interested in it. It's kind of dry and boring for me, but seeing it through Miguel's sunglasses, it's interesting.
Do you try to, if you're browsing the internet, do you try to spend time as Miguel on your own?
No, that's kind of weird. No, I put on like a yellow raincoat and start browsing the internet. No,
Don't talk to me today, honey. I'm Miguel today.
Just
You don't
refer to-
exist to me.
Refer to me as Miguel. Even my dog looks at me weird when I'm Miguel. No, I don't do that, but I guess I do in a way understand what your question is. It's as I'm looking through, Twitter or whatever, I will find articles that Miguel would find interesting, right? And I tend to then, either email myself that article, so I'll always have it archived in case a scene comes up where it would be good to read that before we shoot. So I try and keep an archive of things that Miguel would maybe be interested in.
Now, as with Sons and Mayans is just like so many characters. There's so many storylines that are happening throughout. Do the creators of the show have time to work with the actors about where their stories are going or where they want them to go? Like at the end of the first season, did you meet with Kurt or the other member of the other team of writers to talk about where Miguel might go in the second season?
Yes. I wouldn't say it's formal. It's not like you come in and have a conversation, but we had opportunities at different events to sit down and just throw darts at a board as to, what it could potentially be. Now, of course, those conversations sometimes it's not really what happens, when you get the script. So you have to be malleable. You have to kind of stay on your toes and understand that, the writers are probably one of the most important influences on the character, right?
And they're working their asses off. So
No,
it's like if a storyline doesn't shake out or go in there, it's not for lack of trying.
No, but what you just said, there's so many characters,
Yeah.
right? There's so many plates to spin, right? And so they do a fantastic job of weaving all those characters in and out of the storylines, and it's complicated, it's complex. Our storytelling is not easy, and it's on like a Shakespearean level in terms of, the backstabbing and the deception and the family, the loyalties. So it is not an easy thing to do, and I think they do it in an amazing way.
What were you most excited to do with Miguel when you started getting the scripts for the second season?
I was excited about how Miguel had set up the end of season 1. So Miguel basically, he's incredibly strategic. Like he is a chess player. So the way that Miguel set up the end of season 1 going into season 2 is he was playing chess with the Mayans. He was playing chess with Los Olvidados, right, with the rebel group, and he was playing chess with the Department of Justice with Lincoln Potter, who you saw in that clip, played by the amazing Ray McKinnon. And so playing chess on one board is hard enough, but when you're playing the same game on 3 different boards, that's essentially what Miguel is doing in season 2.
What is it like doing a scene with Ray McKinnon? Obviously, you said the amazing Ray McKinnon, and when I called him out during the clip, you had nothing but compliments from him. You obviously hold him in an extremely high regard. I love him as a character actor. When I watch him, I'm always fascinated by his choices. He makes very distinct, clear choices with his scene that I don't think most actors would make. It always works. This isn't a criticism in any way, but when you get to a scene with an actor like that who's doing stuff, does it throw you at first, or is it just like, oh, this is going to be fun now? I'm working with someone who's going to be doing something a little bit different.
You know, to work with Ray is kind of like working with, the best jazz musician.
Yeah.
Right? So you're trying to riff with them. And anybody who's acted or has taken an acting class or has read about acting has always heard that acting is just reacting, right? And so when you're acting with somebody who gives you so much, if you truly pay attention to them, if you're a good listener, not only of the words he's saying, but his facial expressions, his body language, then he is so generous, he's giving you so much to play off of as Lincoln Potter, that the scenes fly by.
He's one of my favorite types of actors, which is just offbeat. You just don't know where he's gonna go.
Unpredictable, absolutely.
Yeah. Is that ever difficult as an actor playing opposite him, or is that what you really look for and hope for?
No, that's what you want. I mean, at least that's what I enjoy playing against that, right? I enjoy playing with that. It's a kind of scene where you rehearse it and you feel like you kind of know where it's going, and then the first take is vastly different from the rehearsal. And then the second take is vastly different from the first take. And so you feel a certain amount of agency to find other moments within the scene that weren't there in rehearsal, right? So it's almost like the first, second, and third takes are just, first, second, and third rehearsals, and you could just play with the scene. I think the last take of that scene was the one that we used. I think on my side was the last take that we used, and it was just because we were so free at that point. And we had explored the scene so much that, the range of the scene expanded. That's what a great actor like Ray McKinnon will do for a scene.
Yeah, it looks like you're having a good time in that scene, not just because of the sunglasses, by the way. One of the things about Miguel is that while he can be cold and he can be calculating and strategic, he is also a very emotional person in regards to his personal relationships. What is it like bringing that out of a person or sort of showing that side of him when you also know that he can be incredibly cold and manipulative?
I think the cliche that there's two sides to every coin is true, right? When he's Miguel, he's a family man. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a son. And that's who he is first and foremost. And that is probably his biggest blind spot, right? It's where he can shed a lot of what he carries around in order to protect his family and to keep his business going. When he's Galindo, he's capable of incredible violence, of incredible terror. He's a monster, right? And he's the monster that you wouldn't see coming because he looks so refined and he wouldn't give anything away. So the emotion comes when he's personal with somebody, right? But when it's business, he's just cold-blooded.
Which side do you like playing more, the business side or the family man?
I like the middle ground.
The middle ground.
I like the unpredictability. I love the duality. I love
scenes where he's on his way to his family or on his way to do business.
No, it's right. No, when he's in the drive-through McDonald's. I think it's the duality. It's the entire range makes him interesting. If he's only Miguel, right, or if he's only Galindo, then it's predictable. It gets a little stale. It's very one note. What the writers do so brilliantly is that they play in that gray area where you don't quite know when Miguel walks into a room. Is he going to, be vicious? Is he going to be calculating? Or is he going to be open and vulnerable, right?
Do you think that scene with Ray McKinnon with Lincoln Potter is a good example of that middle ground where it's unclear whether or not he is calculating and being strategic and thinking in the business mind, or if he's working on another level?
I generally don't like to dictate interpret a scene for the audience. Right? I love for you guys to be able to take whatever you see rather than me having to define it, right? But I would say that Ray McKinnon's character, Lincoln Potter, is not family.
Right.
And so anytime you see Miguel Galindo with someone who's not family, someone's getting played.
Do you think he's smart enough to play Lincoln Potter?
I wish I had sunglasses right now.
Just a few episodes left of the second season, right? How many episodes left of the second season at this point?
Well, we just aired
5.
fifth episode.
Yeah, the fifth
so
episode.
5 more.
5 more.
That's right.
What can we expect? No spoilers, I guess, for what to happen with Miguel and his family and the cartel.
Oh man, there's so many great storylines. I mean, one of the biggest storylines is this guy right here, J.D. Pardo, with playing Easy, and Clayton Cardenas playing Angel. The fact that Miguel and those two guys might be connected through Felipe, through Edward James Olmos' character, that's a huge storyline. But, you know, it would be difficult just to name one. Because, as you said, it's a very complicated, complex show with so many different storylines. And I think what you'll find is by episode 10, it's gotten to the point that something dramatic and awful and life-changing has to happen. And I think you'll find that it does.
With Mayans, because there are so many storylines, I know most people can't watch their own work, but do you find that you can watch the show because there are so many storylines alongside of yours? Or are you okay with watching your work in general?
I'm fine with watching my work when I don't suck.
And you don't suck as this part.
Oh, man, I
don't think you do. Sorry, that wasn't.
thank you,
That sounded like it was a question.
No,
for you.
I appreciate that. No,
You don't suck in this part.
no,
Danny?
you don't
No.
suck. You suck so little in this part.
You're very good. You're very good at Miguel.
There are very few moments that you suck in this part. Very, you know, I find it hard. I find it hard sometimes because I find it hard not to, be a perfectionist. It just means so much to me, right? The story means so much to me. The character means so much to me. My cast means so much to me. The crew, the writers, the directors. I mean, it just means too much sometimes. So I just start to nitpick all kinds of things. Thankfully, I feel like this show functions on such a high level that I find myself doing that less.
The show moves pretty quickly, though. I mean, in terms of shooting, you guys are moving really fast, right?
Yeah. No, this show moves very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to something like Law and Order, which it moves fast, but it doesn't. I'm imagining not as fast as something like this, right?
Well, Law and Order is it's a different kind of structure. It's a different show,
It's
right?
a machine that's also been running for
Which makes it
so
incredibly
long.
compelling too. I mean, the machine that runs so smoothly, right? Law and Order is it's a different. The way that it's structured is completely different, right? So it's like the crime, right, and then you have the B and C stories. Which I find incredibly compelling. What I love about Law and Order is that you could be away from it for, half a season and still drop in and you're with the characters you love again and you didn't have to watch, 13 episodes to understand what's going on, right? And it's so well written. And it has like a social resonance to it as well. What Mayans does is it invests in the characters, right? And so it's not quite as crime heavy, right? So it's really about how the characters are relating or not relating to one another, what characters want from one another and what they're not getting and how they're going to get it. So it's all that nerdy, acting 101 stuff that I love, that I geek out on. But I think they're both, incredibly pertinent and interesting.
Yeah. We have time for a couple questions from the audience. Who's the question? Right here.
I have a question. What's your favorite? My question is, How was it working with Mariska Hargitay, and what is your favorite episode?
Oh man, that's a good question. Well, working with Mariska Hargitay is amazing. She's one of the most generous, talented, dedicated, funny. She's hilarious actors I've ever had the pleasure of working with. I mean, her dedication to her craft and to the show and to the cause is unparalleled, right? My favorite episode. Yeah, I think it was probably the episode. There was an episode, Padre Sandunguero, so that I loved. It was basically brought Nick Amaro face to face with his father, and all the father-son issues, right? That happened. Armand Asante played my father, who I've always revered since the Mambo King. So, and the script was just beautiful. So yeah, I guess that's my simple answer to your good questions.
One more question.
Hi, I've got a question from our site. What's the best advice you've gotten in terms of like developing a performance and also like trying to not be as critical and like letting that character be who you who you create?
That's a good question. I think preparation is key, right? Before I play a character, I try and research as much as I can. For instance, I'm going to be doing a play at the Geffen Playhouse in November in Los Angeles.
When's the last time you did a play?
Like 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Are you excited to go back?
I am. We're doing an adaptation of the film Key Largo.
Wow.
With Andy Garcia and Tony Plana. It's going to be a blast. But, it's set in 1946 on Key Largo, right after World War II. So I've been studying a lot about, that World War and how soldiers came back from that war. I try and just immerse myself in that world as much as I can. I'll watch, films from that time. I won't watch the film. I won't watch Key Largo because, Humphrey Bogart is such a strong character. I don't want to have him influence my interpretation of it, right? But I will watch, Best Years of Our Lives. I watched, From Here to Eternity. So I'm trying to watch all of that so that I can really feel like I understand the world, that I'm in the world, only to let that all go once we get into rehearsal so that we can have that human connection, and develop that quality where unpredictability, right? That you can go anywhere with the character and it's not robotic, right?
Best Years is the film that ends with spoiler alert. It's like 70 years old, but it ends with the guy on the jet, right? Like
he's on the bomber.
On the bomber.
Yeah.
God, I love that movie.
Yeah,
That movie,
I'd never even heard of it. I mean, that just shows you how ignorant I am.
I saw it for the first time a couple years ago,
I
and
love that
bomber
film.
scene is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's such a not slight, but subtle film working its way up to this big moment that you don't see coming. Oh, I love it.
You have three different soldiers coming back from the war. A couple of them who fought, in the Pacific theater, and then one of them who fought in Europe. And so all of these soldiers are dealing with coming back from seeing pretty traumatic events, and they all have different lives, and it has a lot to do with what we're doing in the play. So, I think it's just a matter of understanding who your character is at a point that is so deep that any choices you make on stage are essentially inspired by the research you've done.
Well, Danny, man, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you
back.
for having me. I appreciate
Mayans
it.
has 5 more episodes of season 2 on FX Wednesday nights.
No, Tuesday,
night.
10 o'clock,
Oh,
9 Central,
there it is.
FX.
Mayans MC. Danny Pino, everybody, let's hear it.